this week's drive, we lose downforce but find the wall, spread some mud, sweat and gears, make a mid-season jump into a Jaguar, and see cars driven to and brought back from the brink. All this and more in this week's Drive. The busy streets of Moscow had a rare visitor recently. Ralf Schumacher came to host a Formula One driving day in an attempt to pass on safer driving skills to the public in the Russian capital. Ralf swapped his Williams BMW racer for a more useful Z4 two-seater in the Russian sunshine to promote safer driving in Moscow, where fatalities in road traffic collisions are commonplace. Ralf Schumacher won at both the Nürburgring and Magny-Cours ahead of his teammate Juan Pablo Montoya, and the pair now find themselves serious contenders in the Drivers' Championship, lying third and fourth. Ralph's older brother Michael has won the World Championship 5 times and narrowly leads this year's title chase in his Ferrari after 11 of the 16 rounds. But Ralf is 6 years younger than his brother. The Williams team are riding a belated wave of success after a dreadful start to the season. Ralf opened a driver training facility in Moscow where enthusiasts and official drivers will be taught defensive driving tactics and how to handle their cars properly. The Williams pair took back-to-back 1-2 finishes in Germany and France. Montoya won in Monaco and came home second in England, although Ralf finished 9th. Later, he discussed the team's change in fortunes with reporters.
Well, when we started with the FW25, we weren't particularly happy, but that was shown by the poor start we had at the beginning of the season. We had some aerodynamical problems and couldn't quite find a way to really set up the car perfectly on the race meetings. It took us a while to understand the whole new concept of the 25 on the circuit, and it took a while on the aerodynamical side to make the car as it is in the moment.
He was asked whether he could reel in his brother and win the World Championship himself.
Theoretically, I would need to win every race if he comes second, so it's pretty difficult. Plus, in Formula One, things can change very quickly. So, in the moment, we are stronger than a Ferrari, down to various reasons, starting with the tyre, for example, and having a really good package in the moment. But that can change already next race.
Does he expect the team to win any more races this year?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I seem to be able to win races, so let's wait and see. In the moment, I'd say yes. I mean, the team is doing a good job, and I hope that I personally don't do any stupid mistake or that I don't have a problem. Then we'll see.
He was asked by a local reporter whether he'd like to race in a Russian Grand Prix if there was one.
Would you enjoy racing here in Moscow in a Formula One car?
Well, why not? Depends on the circuit, obviously. But I heard rumors about it, but then it got very quiet again about it. So I'm sure there's still a plan to do a race in Russia, and why not? I mean, we have you know, a lot of races in Europe, and there's a lot of space really to go out and everywhere else. And still, Russia is a very interesting market, and it seems just going through the city already, I saw a lot of people, you know, joining us, even if they things to sign. So the interest of motorsport seems to be very big. So that's always great for us, certainly. Yeah, it would be a pleasure.
A deal for a Russian Grand Prix collapsed last year. Mayor Yuri Lutskov blamed Formula One's Supremo Bernie Ecclestone for the failure. The first race was expected to take place next year at a new circuit a few kilometres south of Moscow. After the press conference, Ralf was presented with a gift, a traditional Russian samovar, but the younger Schumacher would doubtless prefer to be holding the Formula One World Crown at the end of this season. The day after the British Grand Prix at Silverstone, the Jaguar team sacked its underperforming second driver, Brazilian Antonio Pettonia. At the beginning of this year, he and Australian Mark Webber joined Jaguar. Webber has had a year in Formula One with Minardi, but Pettonia is a first-year rookie. From the start, he knew it would be hard.
Well, it's a dream come true to be in Formula One for me, and we're going to have a difficult season. I think there's a lot of work to be done in here, and it's always difficult when you are a newcomer as well. So I have a lot to learn, but it should be quite interesting, and I'm looking forward.
But for the 22-year-old, the dream turned into a nightmare. 6 DNFs and 5 pointless finishes. His best, 9th in Austria. Petsonia has been under pressure since the team tried to replace him with McLaren's test driver, Alexander Wurz. Negotiations failed and Jaguar offered him the test driver role, but he refused. He was previously a test driver for Williams. Mark Webber has scored all the team's 12 points this year and is 9th in the title. Now in his second year in Formula One, he made a dream debut with Minardi, scoring 2 points in his very first race at home in Australia. Webber's place at Minardi this year was taken by Briton Justin Wilson. He's the tall one, with team owner Paul Stoddart. Justin won the Formula 3000 World Championship in 2001 and brought his drive in the Minardi team by floating himself on the London Stock Exchange. Being 6 feet 3 inches tall, he's by far the tallest man in Formula One, and he simply didn't fit in last year's Minardi. But team owner, Australian aviation entrepreneur Paul Stoddart, recognised his talents and was determined to get him in the car for 2003.
In Justin, I saw a potential champion. Now, he proved that in 2001 when he won the championship, and Formula 3000 at international level is no easy championship to win. Of course, his height, everybody said he'll never make it. I suppose Minardi's almost the patron saint of giving people a break, and that's exactly what we did. We tried to get him in the car in August. He didn't fit this year's car, so we made absolutely certain that he would fit next year's car, and our plans really from August of this year was to have Justin in the car if humanly possible, and I'm just so proud today we're going to do it. I think he will continue in the tradition of Alonso and Webber before him in proving to be a race winner of the future, perhaps a point scorer, and who knows, maybe he could even get a podium for Minardi.
And now he's stepping out of the Minardi after just half a season, scooped up by Jaguar in a remarkable mid-season shuffle. He's leaving with Stoddart's blessing. Minardi keeps Wilson's entry fee, gets another from new driver Nicholas Kieser, and releasing Wilson from his contract includes discounted or even free engines from Ford, Jaguar's parent. Barrichello's win at Silverstone was his first this year, but Michael still leads the title. Raikkonen closed the gap, third in England to Michael's fourth, but Ralph drops behind Montoya, down with a virus. 2 cars in the points lifts Ferrari's lead over Williams, but it's looking like being another all-red party at the end of the year. A beautiful day for racing at the Chicagoland Speedway brought out a huge crowd. Tony Stewart was on pole, with Jeff Gordon beside him at the head of the 43-car field. Dale Earnhardt Jr., who started the race second in the title, ran with the leaders most of the day, but he lost it and backed his Chevy into the wall on lap 208.
Even then.
The scariest moment of the race came on lap 214 when Johnny Benson and rookie Casey Mears banged together and ignited a 5-car melee that ended with Bobby Labonte's car engulfed in flame. Other drivers dodged the blazing wreck as it rolled down across the track, trailing flame.
He's trying to get out of that car.
The extent of the impact is shown by a suspension spring ripped out of the car. As Labonte struggles to get out of the blazing car, Kyle Petty stops to help.
And he does. He's out of there. Man, oh man.
Once out of the car, Labonte stumbled and fell, his frustration obvious, but remarkably, he wasn't injured.
Just spun.
Save it. Johnny's tire's bent out.
The racetrack and he clips the 18 car.
In a replay, it's clear why he was so annoyed. He was an innocent party involved in someone else's crash. Mike Wallace and Robbie Gordon were also involved in the collision, but Mears, Gordon and Benson were all able to continue. In the end, it was Ryan Newman who outlasted the field to take victory ahead of Tony Stewart. Teammates Jimmy Johnson and Jeff Gordon finished 3rd and 4th. Points leader Matt Kenseth finished 12th, but midway through the series he still leads from Jeff Gordon and Dale Earnhardt. The race lasted 45 seconds short of 3 hours, saw 13 lead changes between 7 drivers and had 7 yellow flag sessions that lasted for 36 laps.
Of his young career. Last Canadian to lead here.
The kart series moved to Toronto in Canada, where local ace Paul Tracy led the field away under blue skies after 2 days of heavy rain. It was the Canadians' first pole position on the temporary road circuit this season. The race was interrupted by a full-course yellow on lap 1 as 5 cars got tangled in a bottleneck. Tapped from behind, Jimmy Vasser was knocked into Adrian Fernandez, who got turned around. His car and Vasser's became wedged together, but Adrian managed to limp on to finish 9th. Shortly after that, on lap 6, Mario Haberfeld came in hopelessly too hot and way off the line, locked up his brakes and clipped another car. This also created a full-course caution, one of many brought on by collisions. Tracy, however, avoided enough of the trouble to lead for the entirety of the race. He held a commanding lead at times, with rivals nowhere in sight. At one point, he had an incredible 59-second lead, but conserved fuel, tyres and his engine to finish 4.5 seconds ahead of Michel Jourdain. On lap 78, the unlucky Jimmy Vasser got clipped again, this time by Mario Dominguez in turn 3. Vasser limped on to finish 13th. But Tracy was untroubled and the home favourite cruised across the finish line to win comfortably. This was his 4th win of the season and the 23rd victory of his career, which puts the 34-year-old from Ontario in 5th place in the all-time winners list. He won the first 3 kart races of the year and now leads the championship standings by 15 points. He led every lap of the race to claim his 4th first place of the season. Tracy also became kart's 5th different winner in the last 5 races.
He got halfway through it and found out he didn't have quite enough breadboard for the donut.
Tracy got out of his car and raised his arms high to the delight of the 73,000 race fans. And then his crew held him aloft as they all continued to celebrate a big win. Toronto was the midpoint of the season, 10th of 19 rounds. The next race is on the other side of Canada, in Vancouver.
Leading every lap and honoring.
Way down south, it was a warm, clear night in the home of country music, Nashville, as the Indy Racing League 200 got underway on the Nashville Superspeedway. Just 3 laps into the race, Robbie Buell drifted into Scott Sharp's right front tyre. Buell hit the wall and Sharp had to pit and get the nose replaced on his car. There were packed stands for the 9th of 16 races in the season. Victor Mira had trouble on lap 109, going out of a race for the 3rd time this year when he lost downforce and understeered into the wall. There was a terrifying moment on lap 124. Greg Ray had pitted for a routine stop for tyres and fuel when flames, easily visible in the night sky, flashed out of the left rear of the car thanks to a loose fuel hose. Crew members immediately doused the car and Ray with water as he struggled to unbuckle himself and get out of the car. However, Ray, the 1999 champion, returned to the race and finished 16th, 4 laps off the lead. Twice in the final 6 laps, Buddy Lazier caused a caution period. Brazilian Gilles de Ferran held a comfortable lead when Lazier spun briefly. He regained control, but the spin still brought out the yellow flag. Just as de Ferran took the white flag signalling the last lap, Lazier went off again, the other way this time, and brushed the wall. That brought out the yellow flags again, and the race ended under caution, with de Ferran the winner. He averaged 137 miles an hour for his 4th IRL career victory. He led for 49 laps, one of 8 leaders on the 1.3-mile concrete oval. With the victory, his 2nd this year, de Ferran moves to 2nd in the overall IRL points race, just 14 points behind series leader Tony Kanaan, but a single point ahead of New Zealander Scott Dixon. De Ferran's other victory this season was at the Indianapolis 500. The next race will be the Michigan Indy 400. If you're like most drivers, you probably spend almost as much time in your car as you do at home or at work. To pass the time, most people listen to music or the radio, but now drivers have a new choice over radio, tape or CD. A Los Angeles-based team has developed a new technology called the Fat Box.
Using your current car stereo and the controls right on your dashboard, the Fat Box allows you to access hundreds of CDs right in your car.
Drivers now have the freedom and flexibility to enjoy their music on the move.
I can have every song I want in my car.
The Fat Box is fitted in the car's boot and stores thousands of songs, or about 500 complete CDs, on a 20-gig hard drive.
You can literally drive coast to coast and probably not listen to the same song twice.
Record label EMI is supporting the new technology by preloading a sample of digital music onto each new Fat Box.
All you have to do is say, okay, I want Pink Floyd. And Pink Floyd shows up on your radio.
Now browsing artists.
Voice prompts guide you through thousands of tracks to find the song you want in seconds.
The voice system will tell you the name of the artist and the name of the album and any other information you want to know right over the speakers of the car.
The bottom line is, your eyes never have to leave the road, making for a safer journey.
The current genre is
electronic.
Audi and Volkswagen offer the new digital player as an $800 option in any new vehicle sold in the US.
This is the first time anyone has put a digital media system in the trunk of a car. So it's really a first for the automotive industry.
The Fat Box is also available for other types of cars and can be easily installed.
People burn CDs all the time, put whatever favorite songs they have onto one CD. If you could put on just one hard drive with unlimited songs rather than just like 20 on one CD, then I think people go for it.
Cheaper Fat Boxes for other cars, including BMW, Ford, Porsche and Ferrari, sell at electronics shops for under $500, but with a smaller 10-gig hard drive and without voice technology. In the Trials World Championship, the 7th round of 9, the Italian Grand Prix saw England's Dougie Lampkin holding a slender 8-point advantage over Takahisa Fujinami of Japan. Still in with a fighting chance, though, was Marc Frisia. The Spaniard's performance in Italy was solid, if unspectacular. He finished with 28 penalty points on both days, and that saw him hold on to 3rd place in the championship behind Lampkin and Fujinami, the best place in the World Outdoor Series he's ever had. But he now has almost no chance of challenging for the championship this year. Fujinami was also in consistent form throughout the weekend. On day 1, he gave away 10 penalties on the first lap and 14 on the second, for a combined total of 24. And on day 2, he improved marginally, laps of 8 and 11 giving him a combined total of 19. That put him on 231 points in the overall championship at the end of the weekend, an advantage of 29 over Frisia in 3rd. Reigning world champion Dougie Lampkin pulled off near faultless laps on the first day. With 6 penalties, all from the first lap, the Montesa rider took the lead and was looking good for a win, his 3rd of the season. But the second day wasn't so kind to the Englishman. He matched Fujinami with 8 penalties on lap 1, but crashed in section 9 of the second lap, hurting his left leg and nearly forcing his retirement. He fell very heavily and the impact left his leg with no feeling. Then he took 5 penalties in the next section from a harsh observer when he touched a flag. With all this against him, 2nd place was a relief. Despite the injury, Lampkin finished with 12 penalties from the day and a total of 20, one more than Fujinami. Nothing has changed between the top 2 places after the Italian Grand Prix. The gap is 8 points with only 2 rounds left, in France and the Grand Prix of Europe just outside Madrid in mid-September. Belgian motocross fans turned out in force and were rewarded with a masterful display from local riders in all 3 categories. In the 125 race, the all-conquering Stefan Everts passed Andrea Bartolini to take the lead, and from then on never looked like losing it. Once Everts had powered away, Italian Bartolini and another Belgian, Steve Ramon, battled it out for second. Ramon just edged him out to secure a Belgian 1-2 in the junior class. Courtesy of Marc de Roiver's season-ending injury, Ramon now fronts the championship pursuit by 12 points from Bartolini. Mascio stands in 3rd and adrift by 21, while Everts' 4th win of the last 5 races moves him to 5th and only 43 points off the lead in 2 concurrent series. And Everts' day was going to get even better. In the MXGP race, he was overshadowed by fellow Belgian Jules Smets for most of the race, until a last-lap mistake wrapped plastic fencing around his rear wheel, but he held on to win. France's Michael Pichon was almost a minute behind in 3rd place, and so all eyes were on the tightly matched contest out in front. Everts proved his class again, holding off Smets to record another win. Riding factory Yamaha 4-strokes in both the 125 and MXGP races, he completed another double victory. His 5th MXGP win in a row, his 4th 125 success from 5 races, his 6th consecutive Grand Prix Winners' Trophy, and his 3rd double set in a row, for an awesome 63 career wins. He moves 2 points ahead of Pichon in the title, with Smets 5 points behind the Frenchman. Spain's Javier García-Vico took an early lead in the 650cc race ahead of Belgian's Cedric Malot, with Smets third after crashing off the overwatered track. There was a real carnival atmosphere around the historic circuit by the end of the afternoon, as Cedric Malot, born and raised only a few kilometres down the road, won his first ever Grand Prix and sent the partisan crowd into a frenzy. Smets, who has won the last 7 races, fought back to finish third. Despite Vico's best efforts, Malot held on to a fairy tale victory to complete a Belgian clean sweep in the day's 3 races, much to the delight of his team. It was also the first Grand Prix win for Honda since they introduced their 4-stroke machine last year. And finally, it's rush hour in Kinshasa, capital of the Democratic Republic of Congo. For most of Kinshasa's 6 million inhabitants, it means rushing to catch a car, because when reliable transport is just one of the casualties of civil war, wheels are in short supply. And that means some unique local solutions may emerge.
This is a Toyota Corolla 3K engine. I'm going to adapt it into a Cadet. The Cadet is a German car, whereas the engine is Japanese. Above all, the problem we have are spare parts. They're very hard to find here. And then there are certain types of car that aren't represented here, like the Cadet, for example. It used to be available here, but now you can't get it anymore. So we have to make do with what we have. To get these cars to work, we have to adapt them.
With virtually no public transport, Kinshasa commuters are at the mercy of private operators, and many dream of owning their own vehicle. Shoba builds cars from whatever parts he can find.
We have to remodel the engine support because this body wasn't made for a Toyota engine. Originally, it was designed for a Cadet engine.
No matter where the car came from, the bits inside could have come from anywhere.
Now that we've remodeled the engine bay, we're going to put the engine in and then connect it up. Then we do the quality control, the technical checks. We check all the parts, the instruments, and all the other things. Then the electrician will come and connect all the wires, and then we'll start it.
The working Cadet is now worth about $1,200, but actually it's now a Toyota because it's the engine number that matters. Mistaken identities like that don't make life easier for the Congolese transport authorities.
In our country, especially in Kinshasa, there are many cars that don't comply with the rules, that drive without a motor vehicle inspection certificate, without a road license, sometimes even without being registered at all. Most drivers here just don't have this culture of going to official offices to get the documents they require.
It will be interesting to see what the motor vehicle inspection officials would make of this model. Easy to refuel en route thanks to its removable petrol tank, but with a very small range, limited by that 5-litre bottle. And even if the petrol tank is full but the car still doesn't start, there's always plenty of people to help get it going again. Hopefully, your motoring isn't quite as action-packed as this, but so you stay on track and up to speed, make sure you catch next week's Drive.